everybody, thank you for joining me today. I hope you're doing really well. Elvis is in the building, his spirit is here, he's in our hearts. And in today's video, we're going to be looking at the Memphis Mafia, and how they influenced Elvis's life. As you may know, the Memphis Mafia, that was the nickname given to Elvis's close friends and his associates who looked after him. They were his inner circle. They were given all types of different jobs, by Elvis. Some were bodyguards. Other people were, for example, Red West and Sonny West were bodyguards. Some were personal assistants. Some were old school friends, and some of them were his buddies from the army. We have Joe Esposito. He was his road manager. Dr. Nicopoulos, or Dr. Nick, nicknamed Dr. Nick, was his doctor, the infamous Dr. Nick. We have Jerry Schilling too. That he was a close friend of Elvis's from school. I can't name them all now because this is about the Elvis Mafia and how they influenced Elvis's life. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Everything. We're gonna lay everything on the table, and we leave no stone unturned. Wow, these guys, they had loads of laughs together, didn't they? They goofed around so much. He loved them guys. Wow. But on the flip side of the coin, to be honest, it was not all sunshine and roses. These people had their flaws. They were not perfect, just like everyone else on this earth. Nobody's perfect. They actually enabled Elvis's behavior, his bad habits, such as his addiction to prescription drugs. Let me emphasize prescription drugs, because he was really, really ill. He was taking his drugs because his body needed them. They enabled his bad eating habits. They overworked him, and instead of steering him away from trouble, they indulged his every whim, no matter how destructive it was. They done everything for him. They were at his beck and call. They spoiled him, they pampered him, and that was not really good for him. Instead of steering him away from trouble, they never confronted him, they never stood up to him, they never complained. They actually encouraged his reckless behavior, because Elvis did have some reckless behavior. And also, they downplayed and they ignored the severity of Elvis's illnesses. They had this duty of care towards Elvis, and they breached that duty of care, This played a big part towards Elvis's downfall, They had a duty of care to say no to him, say no to things that are dangerous. That was negligence. Elvis didn't have the time to do the research, to look at the dangers of the medication he was performing. He relied on people. He relied on the doctors, to give him the right advice, but they didn't. They were negligent. They exploited this mafia people. They lived lavish lifestyles, and they enjoyed all the perks, but never challenged Elvis's decisions. They were not being accountable. They isolated Elvis, and eventually this led him to burn himself out, okay? They got into arguments about many issues. There was a lot of jealousy involved. They were jealous of Elvis's success. Elvis's girlfriends and his wife, the members were snitching on each other and informing each other about certain things, and that was not good at all. This caused Elvis a lot of stress, and he was also very hurt by their behavior, like Jerry Schilling. What did Jerry Schilling do? Apparently he made a play for Priscilla, and Elvis believed they were having an affair, because every time Elvis walked in the room, they would stop speaking. When Elvis and Schilling were in the room, they were always together, and they would always stop talking when Elvis walked into the room. Um, so this caused a lot of emotional pain for Elvis. These guys prioritized their interests, over Elvis's life. They controlled Elvis's environment. They made important decisions for him at the expense of Elvis's artistry and his creativity. They never allowed him to grow and develop, to reach his peak. His potential was not used, They enabled his drug behavior, his drug abuse, but by getting medication for him, they turned a blind eye when Elvis overdosed himself. On many occasions, they would get the medication. They would also, the Memphis Mafia bought extra prescription medication for Elvis. And by using their own names on the prescriptions, the medication was prescribed in their names, but it was meant for Elvis. So they failed to intervene. They failed to challenge Elvis. His destructive behavior, they failed it. They failed to challenge him. They were getting drugs for him in their own names, for God's sakes. Because you know what? They were scared Elvis would fire them. They didn't want to lose their jobs. They didn't want to lose their friendship with Elvis. They bit their tongue, kept it zipped up and overlooked his behavior because they were fearful. Because they were fearful Elvis would reject them. They would leave. They would lose their lifestyle. He would fire them. So whatever. They were scared. These guys were not only friends, but they were employees. This makes a big difference. They had a legal duty of care, not just a moral duty of care. They had a legal duty of care to take care of Elvis, but they failed. And if they loved him, they would have challenged him. They were reluctant to disagree with him because he was their meal ticket, for God's sakes. They should have done more to help him, as far as I'm concerned, But they just put money before Elvis. They put money before Elvis's welfare. They overlooked and mishandled him. They were so scared of losing their privileges, their lifestyle. So Elvis's habits, they were left unchecked, Elvis was just a cash cow, making all the bucks, so the Americans say bucks, we don't say bucks. And they were making the bucks. He was the cash cow, and the Memphis Mafia were milking him dry. Elvis lived in a bubble, insulated from the outside world. The Memphis Mafia created this bubble around Elvis. They're the ones who did this, yeah? And it was not good for Elvis. Because when they created this bubble, they shielded Elvis from the outside world. They shielded him from criticism. And this lack of outside influences, outside voices, that it made it harder for Elvis to recognize when he was on a dangerous path. Because all these people, they didn't tell him about the dangers, the risks, and they had a legal duty to do so. Despite their faults, despite their flaws, despite all the bad things they did, they loved Elvis in their own way. They all had so much fun together, and Elvis loved them. They made him happy, they get emotional when they talk about Elvis. If you have a look at some of the YouTube videos about Elvis and the Memphis Mafia, you can see Sonny West in tears sometimes when he talks about Elvis. You know, they love that guy. Yes, they miss them. Now that when he died, they missed all their privileges, their jobs, the money, the fame, the lifestyle. They missed all that. Yeah, but they loved Elvis as well. These guys did have fun, you know. Right, to continue with the video, let me see what the Memphis Mafia did. They actually burdened Elvis with unnecessary spending. They took advantage of Elvis's generosity, and these people, Elvis spent a lot of money on these people. He bought them cars, houses, jewelry, gave them presents, money, and they were earning a good salary. He paid them all. These people, Elvis had about 300 people working for him. He should not have had so many people working for him. That's why all his money was gone. That's why Elvis struggled doing concerts back to back to earn the money. And this generosity, Elvis's generosity, became an expectation. They expected Elvis to offer gifts in the end. They expected it, and that was wrong, because this is where Elvis went wrong. When you offer somebody money or gift, they would expect more. And where Elvis went wrong was also he hired these people for jobs. Rather than hiring professionals, he hired his friends. Friends take liberties. There's no clear boundaries with the Memphis Mafia. There was no clear boundaries at all. By employing family and friends, you know, Elvis made a big mistake. And these jobs he hired them for were unofficial jobs. They're not official jobs. It became difficult for Elvis to maintain boundaries. The lines between their professional relationship and their personal relationship became really blurred. This made it harder to set boundaries and to provide constructive criticism and feedback. And trying to enforce discipline was really difficult. The Memphis Mafia felt some kind of entitlement. They expected favors from Elvis, and that was wrong. Elvis was not getting any discipline in his life because he was never criticized. People never complained. People never said no. You know, they just said, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. They spoiled him. They pampered him. So another disadvantage of Elvis employing his friends was that these men caused problems by underperforming. Elvis found it very difficult to make tough decisions. He didn't want to fail them. He didn't, you know, it was difficult for Elvis to fire them. Keeping all these people in his life was not a good thing for Elvis. They caused great damage for Elvis's personal life and his career, because disputes over their work spilled into their personal friendships with Elvis. The Memphis Mafia took liberties. They disregarded the rules and they expected special treatment. You know, I don't think the Memphis Mafia had the skills or the experience, and they didn't have the professionalism to do the jobs properly. They weren't employed on merit, but Elvis employed them because they were friends, because he hired them out of loyalty. And he shouldn't have done that, I'm afraid. I mean, at least if you hire a professional, he or she would just do the job and go. They would provide constructive criticism and there would be a clear-cut boundaries involved. They would be honest, and with Elvis, and the Memphis Mafia, you know, weren't honest with Elvis, and they didn't feel obliged. The Memphis Mafia didn't feel obliged to follow rules or meet deadlines. They felt less obliged to perform at their peak level, at their best level, you know? So, they knew Elvis always made allowances for them, you know, because they were friends. So when they messed up in their job, Elvis made the allowances for them. These guys never really had defined roles with clear boundaries. They weren't objective. They weren't accountable. And we've covered this before about their lack of accountability. And they pampered Elvis and spoiled him. They shouldn't have done that, because when in life, you've got to face problems, you've got to face struggles and difficulties, and Elvis wasn't allowed to be to be able to have these difficulties. You have to face difficulties, because Elvis needed to know how to persevere. He needed to have more patience. He needed to know about the side effects of the medication, you know, but they didn't allow him to know anything or do anything. He wasn't allowed to stretch his abilities, to reach his potential, to stretch and grow. He wasn't allowed. There were no objectives. There were no roles and boundaries, you know. At least with professionals, you can communicate expectations up front, and you don't bend the rules at all. But with friends and family, never a good idea to hire friends and family. That's another one. That's another downfall for Elvis Presley. Hiring friends and family was very, very wrong, you know. So with regards to Dr. Nicopolis, or Dr. Nick, he overprescribed medication for Elvis. Dr. Nick had a personal relationship with Elvis. He should have said no to Elvis, but he didn't. He never even told Elvis about the side effects and the damage this medication can do. Do you guys know that Elvis bought Dr. Nick property with his money? Elvis gave Dr. Nick lots of money to buy property. Elvis's medication. Elvis brought medication from other doctors apart from Dr. Nick. The good thing about Dr. Nick was to give Elvis placebos to stop him overdosing. I've got to give him credit for that. In those days, there were hardly any rehab facilities for Elvis to go to, and taking drugs was a taboo. It was frowned upon, so Elvis wasn't really open about his addiction. There was a lot of stigma towards it, and in those days, doctors they didn't know whether one doctor prescribed medication for Elvis. One doctor didn't know what the other doctor was doing, you know, with regards to prescribing medication for Elvis. Lots of doctors were involved. Lots of doctors gave Elvis medication, you know. If he wasn't going to get it from if he wasn't going to get the medication from Dr. Nick, he would have gone somewhere else, you know. So, and another thing, there was no computer system to store all the information, so it was easy to overprescribe medication, because the doctors couldn't look into the system to find out whether Elvis was getting medication from other doctors, you know. So they took advantage of him in that way. So that's it for now, guys. Before I go, guys, before I wrap things up, I'm actually going to leave some clips of Elvis with the Memphis Mafia. I want you to see the banter, the laughter, the fun they had together. And in one of those videos, Elvis has been really naughty, really naughty. It's so lovely to see the dynamics of their relationship. It's so good. They did have so much fun and laughter, some really good memories, some really good experiences. And you know, some people, I believe these people did love Elvis in their own way, and despite their faults, and Elvis, they made Elvis happy, I think. I do think that. I do believe that Elvis was really happy, and they loved Elvis in their own way, and sometimes they did take advantage of him, but at the same time they loved him. And I want to leave by showing you these clips. They're really funny, and I'm gonna go now, so you take care. If you did like this video, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Also, I would like to thank the people who are going to watch the video, the viewers, and I would like to thank them, because out of all the Elvis videos, they came to see mine, and I really appreciate that. So many videos out there, millions of them, about Elvis Presley, and the fact that some people came to see my video, I really appreciate it. And stay happy, stay healthy, be good to one another. I love you all, and I'm gonna see you really soon, okay? I haven't finished with the Memphis Mafia yet, so that's it from me. Bye for now. Take a look at the video of Elvis with the Memphis Mafia. It continues on after I come off air. Okay, so bye everybody. Take care.
I think for a closing shot, Dennis, we'll hang Lamar from the balcony. Just dangle him from the... As the worm turns.
Oh yeah, did the launch chair go off?
A story of Lamar Fife in search of his identity.
Disconnected up there. Gigi and him saw the explosion. I didn't know that. I had launch. Because they just launched right over here.
And launch? I was buried in the fever.
How was your lunch?
I don't know how it sounds.
Just make sure the gentleman has a mic up there.
That's why I want to say no. I wanted to know. They believe that section right there. Body, man. I'm a big bird man. I think for a closing shot, Dennis, we'll hang Lamar from the balcony. Just dangle him from the balcony, that little bitty neck, and put strobe lights on him like this, blinking. Yeah, you know how your underarm is, so put it down. Goes on film, too, Lamar. That's on film, son.
Take all time of it.
That's on record forever. Next song? Yeah, girl, I'm good last night. No comeback. I've lost it.
Hey, Joe, I did a check last night, gave Brady's head a run away up on the blue train, take it back across Mississippi Creek. There's a bad midnight fire, and I'm running out of smoke.
I want you to... I think for a closing shot, Dennis, we'll hang Lamar from the balcony. You know, just dangle him from the balcony, that little bitty neck, and put strobe lights on him like this, blinking. Yeah, you know how your underarm is, so put it down. That goes on film, too, Lamar. That's on film, son. That's on record forever. Next song? No comebacks. I've lost you, gentlemen.
You're right.